Welcome to History Clips. I'm Mr. Hummel.
And I'm Mr. Bueller. And in today's episode, what we're going to be talking about is it's a continuation of the causes of World War I. Today we're going to be talking about the key conflicts and major battles of that First World War.
Where we left off was how everybody starts declaring war on each other. Germany decides instead of attacking France head on, they're going to sneak around through Belgium and then attack using what they called the Schieffelin Plan, and that is surround Paris, and if you can take the capital city of Paris, you knock France out of the war quickly.
Hang on, I'm gonna floor it! Watch out! Move! Move! Move!
Careful, Austin! Watch out!
Watch out!
Watch out!
Let's go! Come on, let's go!
This plan, though, is by Germany sneaking through Belgium very quickly, they're going to get Great Britain involved too. Great Britain was kind of this big brother protector of Belgium, and they said if anything happens to you, whoever attacks you, we'll then attack them.
Who did this to you? Where is he?
Now the French decide they're going to attack directly at Germany, and they think they're going to attack the major German force on the German-French border. However, they're wrong. It's actually a trap.
It's them! Blast them! Get back to the ship!
Certainly has courage.
Now, thanks to courageous French generals who tell their soldiers stop retreating, turn around, fight back, the French are able to regroup outside of Paris. And there's this huge showdown for this massive climactic battle for the ages, millions of men on both sides, explosions, machine guns everywhere, huge amounts of destruction.
And this becomes known as the First Battle of the Marne. If Germany wins, they take Paris. France is out. If France wins, we don't know what's going to happen yet. And we're only 1 month in, and we've got thousands of people dead and tons of territory destroyed.
On September 9th, after 3 days of fighting, the French and British are victorious, but only after human carnage on a terrible scale. The French historian Marc Bloch, a sergeant at the time, writes, "A severed leg lies on the ground, almost ridiculous in its horror. A revolting stench turns the stomach." The fighting has left 200,000 dead or wounded on the French side, and just as many Germans.
Now we're focusing on Germany and their battles with the other countries because Germany is really the main force for the Central Powers. There is other countries like Austria, Hungary, and Bulgaria and the Ottoman Empire are going to help, but they're kind of a secondary nature. However, at the same time as what's going on in the West in France, Russia is also attacking Germany in the East.
And Germany at this point, they're fighting a war on 3 sides almost. They got the British and the French armies in the West. The British also are starting to do some attacks from the sea, and you have Russia from the east. It's really kind of an unfair fight.
It's your last chance to walk away.
Are you kidding? It's 5 against 1.
It's 3 against 1.
How do you figure?
Once I take out the leader, which is you, I'll have to contend with 1 or 2 enthusiastic wingmen. The last 2 guys, I always run.
Well, you done this before?
It's getting late. Remember, you wanted this. It's okay. You're okay. Get up. Okay. Now we know who's who.
Now remember, the British has the biggest navy in the world. So they decide they're going to use that navy to blockade the German ports. And their goal is to starve the German people into losing support for the war.
Sir, rubber ships are coming into our sector.
Good. Our first catch of the day.
Hey, Imperial fleet! Get ready to suck some dack!
Now Germany decides to fight back against this British blockade with a blockade of their own. But they're not going to use their big battleships. They're just too expensive to risk this early in the war. What they decide to use is unrestricted submarine warfare. And these submarines are going to travel under the water like sharks, sneaking around the British naval ships, attacking the weak, defenseless cargo vessels that are coming from places like America. Now at this time, there's a change up in German strategy. They say instead of trying to take Paris, instead what we're going to go for is the town of Verdun in France. There are some strategic forts around it. We're going to take over those French forts, make them our own, and our big plan is for the French to just sacrifice troops trying to take them back until eventually they'll run out of soldiers and have to quit the war.
And this is like just rams just constantly running into each other and just button heads. Two massive armies just killing as many people as possible. You've got the Germans attacking, the French attacking back, and it becomes known as the mincing machine of Verdun or the meat grinder of Verdun. So many men died that they thought it was like just grinding meat.
But after 10 long months, it's the Germans that are the ones that are forced to fall back and retreat. And a big reason for that is there was just one fort that the French army absolutely refused to give up. And every time the Germans attacked, the French would fight back and chase them away.
Don't want to talk to you no more, you empty-headed animal food trough whopper. I fart in your general direction. Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelt of elderberries.
Is there someone else up there we could talk to?
No, now go away or I shall taunt you a second time.
Now this is your last chance.
I've been more than reasonable.
Fetchez la vache. Quoi? Fetchez la vache. If you do not agree to my commands, then I shall... Jesus Christ! Right.
Now in 1916, the only major surface fleet engagement will occur between England and Germany, and that is the Battle of Jutland.
Now, the Battle of Jutland, the Germans decide that we're going to have to break this blockade by using our battleships. They head out of German waters and go to face the British Navy. The British Navy has a fog to its advantage, covering how many ships they actually have. The Germans look like they're winning. They got better ships. And after the first day, it's looking good. However, the Germans decide it's just not worth it, and they turn tail and head back to German waters.
I'm reading activity in the cloud.
Lock on fire on my command. You should have let me see her, Captain. We should have done this as men, not with fire.
Sir.
Vessel in range. Lock on. Bastard's not even changing course.
Sir?
Target the Reavers. Target the Reavers. Target everyone. Somebody fire!
Now remember, at the Battle of Jutland and this coming battle, Battle of Verdun is still going on, that 10-month struggle. But the British decide to prepare for another fight with the Germans to help the French at Verdun.
And what the British decide to target is at the River Somme in France. They said, we'll attack the German army there. The British, they had massive preparations. They did artillery bombardments, all the supplies they could need. They figured it's going to be a cakewalk. But instead it turns into trench warfare. It bogs down into a several-week-long battle. And in the end, the British lose about 150,000 soldiers are dead. And for all that loss of life, they've really only taken maybe a few miles worth of territory.
Now, earlier we talked about the Russians. The Russians were pretty much a waste of time when it came down to the World War I. They would attack and they'd lose. They would attack and they would lose. By 1917, they have a revolution go on, the Bolshevik Revolution, and they are out of the war.
You could say they've been knocked off. Germany's use of unrestricted submarine warfare would come back to haunt them, and that is by sinking U.S. ships that were sending aid to Britain. America now decides to wake up. Like a great big monster, it decides we're joining this fight and we're going to take you out. Their mistake with America now entering the war. Like a desperate gambler, they decide to bet it all on one big final battle that will knock out France and Britain before American troops can start entering Europe. And at first, at the Second Battle of the Marne, it looks like Germany might even win this.
However, they start running low on supplies, they start running low on men, and they also don't have tanks or anything else to support their attacks like the British and the Americans and the French had developed at this time frame. And with other mistakes that happen, they just cannot continue the fight and they fall back. And it's just going to become Germany is on a defensive war for the rest of the war.
Go, 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 go!
At this point, the Americans are arriving in large numbers of men, and the Germans know that this war is almost over now. The Allies have realized a way to actually start working together. The British, the French, the Americans, they're sitting down, they're making plans together. And in the Argonne offensive by the Americans, the Germans are just pushed back and they're out of supplies. They're out of men. This war is over and they're going to sue for peace.
Now, by America joining in this European conflict that they wanted to stay out of, America is now flexing its muscles when it comes to world power status. And especially with England, America and England are starting to see we have a lot of common good that we want to do together. And you're going to see the start of an Anglo-American alliance that when World War II comes around is going to be especially useful at combating Germany all over.
You are still dangerous. You can be my wingman anytime.
You can be mine.